Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our analysis of the IPM performance for the month of February. As you got the data yesterday, I'm sure Feb performance of the market has taken away smile from everybody's face because it is really not all that encouraging. However, what I strongly believe is most of us have budgeted this type of degrowth because COVID second wave, where the surge and demand for certain products went up from Feb, March, April, May or so. What we are looking at is we are expecting a downward trend coming somewhere in the month of Feb, March, April, May. So this type of degrowth is expected, but then probably it was little the entire degrowth has got preponed a little early, and the impact is little more significant. So let us look at how the market looks like. So in today's presentation, what we will be covering is we will be looking at the IPM performance at an overall level, the current performance versus long-term trends, because what we are seeing today again is the impact of the aberrations that the market had shown. And now we are assuming that normalization is going to happen. And in this case of normalization, how things look like. The growth drivers of the market, the top 40 corporates, top 40 brands, and we have a very interesting session in opinions that matter. First, let us look at the IPM therapy performance. Now, over here, what we are seeing, what we have done is we have arranged the different categories or therapies in the IPM in descending order of value. First is the MAT data set, and next is the month data set. At a MAT level, the growth really looks good and encouraging. The growth is a good double-digit value growth and a very good unit growth. Also, almost all the categories are showing a very good and healthy growth in terms of value and units. What is seen as challenging is the performance for the month of February, where the market for the IPM, though I am seeing it as a minus 0.2 growth, I would actually put it as, the market has stagnated and shown a 0% growth. Or, we are at the same value levels as where we were same time last year. However, what is concerning is the unit growth. The market has shown a very strong unit degrowth, close to 7.7%. Across all the categories, we are seeing this type of unit degrowth. However, certain categories which come out strongly, certain categories which are high contributing category, the Gastro category, the Nutritionals category, and the Derma category, which contribute to almost 27% of the IPM, they are the ones which have shown a very high degrowth. Despite all the challenging times, what we are seeing is that the respiratory category still manages to maintain a robust value as well as unit growth. So last time what we had seen is the market for the month of January was showing a double-digit growth, and we had identified certain segments which we classified as the outliers. And it was because of those outliers that the market was showing a very high growth. So similarly, we thought, why not identify certain outlier segments because of which the market is showing a strong degrowth. So we thought that it is possible that this Gastro, Nutritionals, and the Derma segment is pulling the market down. What if we remove these three segments and then look at the market degrowth? So what we did is we removed these three segments, the Gastro, Nutritionals, and the Derma segment, and then looked at the market performance. But even after removing these three segments, the market performance has not improved significantly. Of course, the value growth of the market has moved from 0 to 1%, but the degrowth, which was earlier close to 7.7%, is almost around 5% now. So this is indirectly indicating that it's not just these three segments which have led to the degrowth of the market. Overall, in majority of the section, there is a major downturn. Then what we have looked at, looking at the long-term trend of the market. Because this period, which is starting from say March 20 to September, October 21, this is the COVID period. And there will be a lot of aberrations in this COVID period. But then I really need to look at the long-term trend of the market to understand if I need to look at the long-term trend of the market to understand whether right now, after this COVID thing is over, are we on the right track? This is the unit trend of the market, normal seasonal trend lines which the IPM shows, slight aberrations that the IPM has shown. And till last month, till the month of January, what we were seeing is that the unit as well as the value levels were actually falling on the long-term linear trend line. We are seeing a major aberration this month. Ideally, if things were normal and a lot of normalization had happened, the month of February would still lie somewhere near this normal trend line. The month of February has shown a value of close to 12,000 crores. However, had the market fallen in the normal trend line, the market would have touched a value of close to 14,000 crore. So there is a gap of almost 2,000 crore from the linear trend line that the market has shown for the month of February. In the consecutive slides, what we will be trying to do is we will look at each of the therapy areas. We are not looking at all the 20 therapy areas, but we will be focusing on the top 10 therapy areas and check what is the aberration and are there specific segments within each of the therapies that have led to this type of deviation. Now coming to the anti-infective segment. Okay. Typically now since we are focusing on Feb performance, we have looked at the months of February for all the past 5 years. So typically anti-infective segment, it picks up in the monsoon and winter season. And then from January onwards, the segment starts declining. Again, you see every year from January onwards, the segment starts declining. So similarly, we have started showing the same pattern. The market has started declining from the month of January. Unfortunately, this decline has been pretty steep for the month of February. And then we have also tried to look. So it's like, it's a normal pattern that in the month of February or from January onwards, the unit and value falls below the linear trend line, but this dip is quite significant. Which are the categories that have led to this type of performance? So we will be repeating this table for all the 10 categories that we'll be evaluating. So for this anti-infectives category, I will take it a little slowly. Here it is the month performance, month value performance, month unit performance. This is the MAT value performance and MAT unit performance. So when we are looking at the month value performance, we are looking at same time in the last 5 years, in the month of February, where was this market in terms of value? And this is at a MAT level. So year on year, is this market growing or not growing? So if you look overall at a MAT level, things are really not a great concern because whether it is antibacterials, antivirals, antifungals, we are on an upward track. And year on year, the market value is definitely growing. However, we have to look at, same time last year. So in the month of February, we are looking at antibacterials, which has degrown in terms of value by 1% and in terms of units by 4%. Now this, though it's just a 4% degrowth, antibacterial segment contributes to around 77% of the anti-infectives. So this is a big chunk of the market. When we evaluated further in the antibacterial segment, it was mostly the high-end antibiotics which were driving the degrowth of the market. Antivirals, obviously, molecules like favipiravir, remdesivir, these are the molecules which had moved up. And also in case of antifungals, certain molecules like voriconazole, posaconazole, which were more for the opportunity infections due to COVID, they were the ones which had moved up in terms of sales. Now sales of those molecules has definitely come down. So this degrowth is expected. But to what extent? So if I look at the value of the antifungals market, sometime before COVID times, in the month of February 18, 19, it was close to 19,000 crores, which has now gone to close to 12,000 crores. So in terms of units, so in terms of absolute units, the unit consumption has fallen down significantly even over the pre-COVID times. So this was about the anti-infective segment. Coming to the next segment, which is the cardiac segment. Cardiac segment, diabetes segment, they are actually our chronic therapies and they really don't have a seasonality pattern. They do not have a seasonality disease pattern. That's the reason why you will see majority of these times for the cardio segment, for the diabetes segment, the value trend, the unit trend, all of them usually lie on the linear trend line. However, what we are seeing for the month of Feb, there is a significant deviation in terms of value as well as units for the cardiac segment. Now, which are the categories within this cardiac segment which have led to this type of trend lines? We see that it is the anti-hypertensives which have shown a major degrowth of 11%. So for the month of February, the antihypertensives are the ones which have driven the degrowth of the segment. Antihypertensives, they contribute to close to 56% of the market. In terms of value, however, the degrowth doesn't seem to be that impactful. Probably it's a price-driven aspect which has protected the value degrowth, or brought down the intensity of the value degrowth of the market. But in terms of unit consumption, the unit consumption is really very low. Coming to the gastro segment. Now, gastro segment, typically you see, again, it's a normal seasonal pattern where gastro segment traditionally lies below the linear trend lines for the month of February. So this is even in the past, the gastro segment usually is below the linear trend lines. Even now, it is below the linear trend line, but the gap between the linear trend line and the gastro segment is quite impactful. It is quite on a higher side. And this gap is there for quite some time now. So a relatively longer gap from the linear trend line to the actual units is seen in the gastro segment. Now, within the gastro segment, there were several therapeutic, several categories like proton pump inhibitors, hepatic protectors, probiotics, antidiarrheals. All of them had a significant contribution and role to play during the second wave of COVID. So if you see, all of them had a very high consumption same time last year. And that consumption has come down significantly and has led to the degrowth of this market in this month. In a long-term perspective, if I were to look at MAT levels, I'm not seeing a degrowth. So as a performance for the whole year or 12 months cumulative performance for this categories, the growth is good. It's encouraging. However, same time last year, because impact of COVID or surge in demand because of COVID had started happening from the month of February onwards. It started from Feb, March, April, and May. After May, the demand started subsiding. Coming to the anti-diabetic segment, as we say, anti-diabetic segment is also a chronic segment like cardiac segment, and that's the reason why the value and the unit trend will always lie, or to a great extent lie, on the linear trend line. However, if you see in the last few months for the anti-diabetic segment, it has been below the linear trend line, and for the month of February, it has come down significantly. Now, in anti-diabetic segments, when I'm talking about OADs without leptins and SGLT2, I mean the traditional OADs, the SU meds. Now, the traditional OADs are the ones which have driven down, driven the degrowth of the market, because these traditional OADs have degrown to the extent of 11%. Leptins to an extent of 2%. Insulins, the degrowth of insulins would be majorly because same time last year, insulins category had behaved like a acute category because of a lot of hospitalization of the COVID patients, where because of excessive use of certain hormones, for the comorbid patients with diabetes conditions, the glucose control was lost. So for hospitalized patients, insulins was given as a acute therapy, and that's the reason why we see a degrowth in the insulins category. After the loss of patent of dapagliflozin, we are seeing a surge of launches in the generics market for the dapagliflozin, and that has led to this type of growth in the SGLT2 and leptin plus SGLT2 market. And for the month of January, we have semaglutide launch, which has happened and which has managed to actually boost the market for the GLP agonist as well. In the long-term perspective, most of the newer anti-diabetic segments, they have shown a relatively good growth for the market. Coming to the nutritional segment, if you see, unlike the other segments where the trend line is usually on an upward slope, we had seen in the presentation last time as well. For the nutritional segment, the slope is a very steady slope. It doesn't go up like this. So when the unit slope is a steady slope, whereas the value slope is quite in the upward direction. The reason for this is a price-driven growth that the nutritionals market shows. Again, for the nutritionals market, the downward dip of the market is significant. So if you see the tip over here, in terms of absolute units consumed, we are actually below what we were even in Feb 2017. It is the vitamins, the antioxidants, and the calcium products which had a significantly higher demand for the month of February, During our COVID-2 wave or COVID wave 2, it is these products which are showing this high degrowth. Now, same time last year, this entire vaccination drive had just got initiated. It was available for a few people. So this entire paranoia about getting immunity boosting, immunity protection was there at that point of time. Today, as 80% of our population is vaccinated, that fear doesn't exist in the market. So obviously, people are not dying or running to stock these type of products or take self medication in terms of these products. Long term perspective, yes, the market is showing a good growth. Coming to the respiratory segment, if you see typically respiratory segment for the month of February, actually it is always below the linear trend lines. So this month also the market is actually below the linear trend line, but then the dip, it has shown a very good upward surge in the month of January, but a very strong dip in the month of February. Now, this dip is not across all the segments of the respiratory segment. In fact, if you look at the cough and cold market, the cough and cold market continues to grow by around 10%, whereas it is the anti-asthma market and the systemic antihistamines market which has degrown. So cough and cold market growing by 10% also indicates that we are in that normal seasonal pattern of cough, cold infections which we usually see in the month of December. Long-term perspective, you see the respiratory segment is showing an overall very healthy growth in terms of units as well as value. Coming to the pain and analgesics segment, again, it is actually following the normal trend line. In the month of February, the pain and analgesics segment, the lines are slightly below the linear trend lines. But over here, if you see in the pain and analgesics segment, while the market moved up significantly above the linear trend line in the month of January, it has taken an equally strong dip in the month of February. Within the pain analgesic segment, if you see the analgesics, which is mainly the paracetamol and paracetamol combinations, they are the ones which continue to grow. In fact, we had a very good discussion about certain Dolo, Calpol type products which are still doing well in the market. So in case of in the pain segment, it is the analgesics which is still growing. It is the anti-inflammatory and the anti-rheumatic segments which are degrowing for the month of February. Long term, all of them, all the important or high contributing segments within the pain category continue to grow. Coming to the derma segment, again, if you see, the downward alignment is quite pronounced. So in the month of February, usually the derma market starts showing a downward dip from the month of January. But this time, this downward dip is quite significant. And this downward dip, which is quite significant, is seen across both the medical derma as well as the cosmetic derma market. So in case of derma market, both the derma categories have come down as compared to the consumption in the month of Feb 2021. Neuro category, typically, if you see, the trend line is usually not a very smooth, the linear trend line may be smooth, but then if you look at the actual value and the unit consumption trend lines, it's a very haywire trend line. It's like we see a lot of extreme peaks and extreme troughs in this market. But typically in the month of February for the neuro segment, it is significantly below the linear trend line. So we are seeing the same trend where the market for the month of February is significantly below the linear trend line. Unfortunately, this number is quite closer or somewhere even below to what the consumption was in the month of Feb 17. Which are the different categories? This dip is seen actually across all the categories, whether it is anti-epileptics, antidepressants, psychotics, vertigo products, Alzheimer products. For the month of February, it's only for the month of February. It's not a MAT figure. So this is a dip which we have seen for the neuro category only for the month of February. Long-term perspective, the category is growing in terms of units by 1% and value in terms of value by 9%. Gynaec, this is the last category that which we will be taking among the first 10 categories. Again, in the last 3 months, the Gynaec category has also started dipping from the or deviating significantly from the normal trend line. And within the Gynaec category, if you see, it is the Haematinics which contribute to around 36% of the Gynaec category, whose consumption has gone down significantly as compared to what it was in Feb 2021. So this was about the top categories. So there are majority of the categories, if you see, the consumption is way below the normal trend lines. And we are hoping that this is just a Feb phenomena. But then in terms of absolute growth in the month of March, April, May, we will see a dip in growth going forward. Reason being, same time last year, in fact, April, May, the market has grown by 50%. We are not going to see that sort of 50% growth going forward. So there will be an impact which we will continue to see in the consecutive months. So coming to the growth drivers of the market, this is something which we have been looking almost every month. For the month of February, while the price and new introduction driven growth remains positive, the market is showing a strong volume driven degrowth. The volume aspect is close to 7.3%. Also, if I were to look at different therapies, the blue part is the volume driven growth. Across all therapies except the respiratory therapy, all the therapies are showing a very strong volume driven degrowth. Coming to the top 40 corporates. Now, obviously, since majority of the therapies or top therapies which contribute to around 90% of the IPM are getting impacted, all of the top 40 corporates do have a very strong presence in these core categories. So the impact of degrowth in these therapies will be felt by almost all the corporates. So if you see across all the corporates for the month of February, all have been impacted by the degrowth, except certain players like Mankind, Intas, Micro, and IPCA, which continue to show a strong positive growth in terms of value as well as units. Overall, at a MAT level, almost all the companies are showing a good positive traction. Coming to the next companies also, we see a similar pattern where a good number of companies have been impacted by the degrowth of the market, except companies like Laranon, Blue Cross, Apex, and Corona, which continue to show a good positive value as well as unit. As far as the top 40 brands are concerned, though Fabic2 continues to stay at rank 1 for MAT Feb level, what we are seeing that certain brands from anti-diabetes segment, which in pre-COVID times were in the top slots, now they have gone back to their top slots for the month of February. So gradually the ranking of the brands seems to be getting normalized over a period of time. Also, if you look in the next 20 brands, there are certain brands which are showing a stronger degrowth impact, whereas again, this is in line with the trend line that majority of the therapies are showing. That's the reason why we are seeing this sort of double-digit impact, degrowth impact on certain brands. And what we also need to note that the brands which are showing a strong double-digit degrowth impact were the ones which had a role to play in COVID, whether it was in anti-infectives category, whether it is in pain category, whether it is in cough and cold category. So key takeaways from this is dip in the month of Feb performance was expected against the surge in demand that was seen from Feb 21 to May 21 due to COVID wave 2. So majority of our partners, industry partners had anticipated this type of degrowth and have budgeted this type of degrowth in their numbers. However, this dip happens to be more pronounced against the expectations across majority of the therapy. So we had also expected that the market growth would come down, but we didn't expect it to come down so soon. So in the month of February, we did not expect a 0% growth. So this dip in growth has got preponed by 1 or 2 months, and it's more pronounced in the month of Feb. Despite the degrowth impact, some players among the top 40 show a positive value and unit performance for the month of Feb, and anti-diabetic segment brands have moved to their traditional top slots for the month of February. So this was from our side in terms of the IPM performance for the month. And now in our section, Opinions That Matter, we take you through a very interesting interview that we have had with Ms. Aditi Kare, Managing Director of Indoco Remedies. The topic is thought leadership in realigning strategies to leverage the market opportunities. I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll start with the interview.
Hello everyone, welcome to Opinions That Matter. Well, last month we got an opportunity to look at the journey of a startup from 0 to 100 crore club. This time we get to speak with an organization that has been a witness to the changing dynamics of the Indian pharma industry. Ms. Aditi Kare is the third generation promoter of Indoco Remedies Limited. Today at the helm of operations, she is steering the organization to newer heights while keeping the essence of the mission and vision envisioned by the founding members of the company intact. Ma'am, welcome to Opinions That Matter. Now, one question, ma'am, that I have always wondered about is the name Indoco. Tell us the story behind this unique name for the organization.
So, Indoco Remedies Limited is in its 75th year of operations, and I'm the third generation in business. The company was founded by my grandfather. We've had very humble beginnings, So, he started selling medicines on a bicycle in the villages of Goa, then went on to set up a shop, eventually got into wholesale. And Goa then was under Portuguese rule. So he used to import from the continent and sell in Goa. One of the companies he was importing from asked him to take up distributorship for western region of Maharashtra. Condition was that he set up shop in Mumbai. He came to Bombay, started a trading company called Indo-Continental Trading Company in 1945. 47, India became independent, and one of the first things our founding fathers did to encourage indigenous manufacturing of pharmaceuticals was sort of banned a lot of import. Govind Ramnath Kare, late Shri Govind Ramnath Kare, our founder and my grandfather, he actually decided to take up this opportunity, and that is how Indo-Continental became Indoco. We actually have an establishment registration certificate of 23rd of August 1947, 7 days after independence.
So, would I be correct in saying that the vision and mission of the founding members of Indoco were more aligned to the nation's need at that particular point in time? Now, today the opportunities in the domestic and global markets have changed dramatically. How have you realigned to this as an organization?
So, what was the vision of the founders? The vision of the founders was to then make quality medicines available at affordable prices to the Indian population. We continue with that vision, only it has now got a little broader. Obviously, post the early 90s and the liberalization of the world and the opportunities that India had to become a pharmacy to the world, we grabbed those opportunities as well. So today, Indoco supplies to over 50 nations of the world in addition to India. The Indian business is about 60% of our top line, but we do supply to Europe, to US, other regulated markets like South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, emerging markets like Asia and Africa, French West Africa in particular, and several other geographies. So the vision has, as I said, got broader. It is now to supply quality, affordable medicines to the globe. Supply and develop. So as we were growing, it was management's vision that we should also get into research, make difficult to do products. So today we boast, for the year completed, we've ended with a turnover of 1200 crore. We have an infrastructure we can boast of 8 manufacturing sites, most of which have approvals from US FDA, UK MHRA, EU GMP, and many of the other global regulatory authorities. An R&D center with over 300 scientists working from everything from non-infringing process of development on APIs right up to filing ECTDs from our regulatory affairs team. In addition, a few years ago, Indoco got backward integrated into the APIs when we realized we wanted to get into US as a serious player and wanted to be in control of our starting materials. There are many success stories in the Indian market of companies which forward integrated from API players into formulations. We must be the very few who backward integrated from a formulation player into an API player as well. So today most of our ANDAs which we have filed in US, we are backward integrated on the API side. We also acquired a CRO a few years ago from Nicholas. So today Indoco has its own clinical research organization. We have a small services division which does difficult analytical testing. So analytical services are being offered. So end to end, from development of API, development of formulations, manufacturing of formulations, sales and marketing, distribution, and offering services. So today Indoco is an end-to-end operation. We are very proud of what we have achieved. Indoco family includes around 6,000 people, 2,300 field sales officers, and around 25 CNF agents. So it's a large operations today, but the vision and mission stay the same. Our founder also had this very clear objective. He had not much education and came from a very impoverished background. So he always wanted to give back to society. In Marathi, we call it Samajache Rin. It's an obligation. Indoco, today our CSR program, which is called Sumati Sangopan, continues to strive to do what the founder wanted, give back to society. So we work with the aged and children who are unfortunate and underprivileged, and work with them to create a healthier and better environment.
What about the operational framework to grab these market opportunities? How have you managed that aspect to ensure Indoco is keeping up with the changing times?
As you know, we operate in a very fragmented environment, right? There are hundreds of recognized pharmaceutical companies in India, and almost everybody operates in the same business environment. Most of us have value-added generics, which are the same kind of products. One has to recognize one's own strengths. This is a business where you either need to have a strength in a therapy, or you need to have a strength created with the doctor fraternity, or reach. And then you must maximize that advantage. If you look at Indoco today, we have three clear baskets of products. We have the acute, we have the subchronic, and the chronic. Within subchronic, again, we are very strong in dental, and we also have other subchronics like ophthalmics and gynecology products. So it was very clear that, especially for me, I got a legacy of the acute. So at one time, most of Indoco's products were in pure acute therapy. Most of our prescriptions came from the general practitioner. And we had a very large presence only in the south and the west. Over the years, what we have done at Indoco is taken these strengths and harnessed the opportunities in the environment. So today we are present across with 8 marketing divisions. We are present across most therapies. Acute does dominate even today because of the strengths of the brands created. So these brands today though enjoy support not just from general practitioners but also from other mass specialists like pediatricians, ENTs, chest, consultant physicians. And that's how we have driven those brands. So products like Cyclopam, which are age-old, products like Febrex Plus, if you look at the character of prescription today, we continue to get, like the market does, around 46-48% from the general practitioner. But we have also driven the brands very nicely with the mass specialists. And I think that is the success of how the brands have grown. The other success story is the reach. With our 25 carry forward agents, with a micro interior reach, Indoco today is more extra-urban than urban, if you ask me. And that is very, very significant when you have a high acute portfolio. Because for acute products, a patient needs to get the product when he has to buy it. So availability and reach become very important. Almost more than 50% of our business and our prescriptions come from extra urban areas. That is our real strength. Therefore, the distribution reach created, working with channel partners, especially in these times when there is so much disruption happening in the supply chain. The manner in which we build relationships with our CNF agents, because they are our eyes and ears in the market for what is happening, and that helped us to stay in touch with these changes. We worked with them. Today we created a digital interface that allows us to reach directly with our stockists. So 98% of the orders that are booked on our system today are through the digital framework. The man is still very important. He actually goes and asks for the order, but the digital order collection, processing, the entire supply chain side, the way we have worked with our channel partners, that has really helped us. On the operations side, today we have 8 manufacturing sites and across the whole geography of India. So we have 4 sites in Goa, we have 3 in Baddi, we have 1 in Aurangabad, we have API sites in Maharashtra. This really helped us, especially in the COVID times.
Ma'am, you just mentioned disruption in the supply chain during COVID waves. How did you tide over this challenge?
In the first wave of COVID, we had a lot of logistic related issues, getting product down south from north, from the other sites where we get a lot of third party manufacturing done or loan license. By the time the second wave came, our logistics and supply chain and production planning had already learned from the earlier challenges. So this time around, there was a good distribution, geographical distribution of manufacturing sites from where product would be got. There was a better planning of raw material, starting material availability. There were several times in this period, especially in the third wave, where we might have needed 4 times of our projected or normal units sold, especially in respiratory and anti-infective segments. There was excellent coordination between production planning and control, forecasting and distribution. This allowed us to actually close some of these very challenging months with a very, very low order book lost because of non-availability of product.
Okay, so one question that I'm sure everyone in the audience is looking forward to is to ask about the strategies adopted by Indoco in achieving a balance between the prescription and the OTX portfolios. Today, Indoco is among a few of those very successful companies that have a strong presence in both. How are you doing that?
So balancing the RX and the OTX, the whole of RX is in the X of OTX. Frankly, that is how we balanced it. We concentrate. At Indoco, we believe in sticking to our core. So what is our core strength? Today, Indoco is ranked on a MAT basis 27th in retail audit, but the strength is prescription generation. Okay, because of the higher amount of acute in our basket, our prescriptions don't run over a very long period. That probably makes us a smaller company by revenue. But if you look at the number of prescriptions we generate, you'll be surprised at how many of the top players are below us. So our real strength is prescription generation, and within the basket we have continued to concentrate on prescription generation. We depend on the repeat purchase by the patient who has got that first prescription. We continue to focus on that. We have never diluted that. Having said that, the entire post-COVID digital phase has given an excellent connect to the end user. So what we've started doing now is strategically using digital to reach out to the end users, to reach out to the patients, so that they are better informed of the treatment options. We have several therapies which have a very high OTX element to it. Respiratory, stomatologicals. In stomatologicals, we compete for many of our products on the complete OTC products. There are many OTC brands available, but we have always still stuck to working with the physicians, so they prescribe a desensitizing toothpaste. But we have now started a strategic initiative in digital so that the end users of our products, if you look at the character of our dental prescriptions or how our products are sold, Sensodent for example, which competes with Sensodyne, you have some very, very loyal users. They do not move to the OTC brand. So the prescription is very important for the OTX. But there are many things that have to be done if you have to be a successful OTX player. The most important thing is to ensure that your product is available. So our reach in distribution, our identification of specific stockists for dental ophthal products who are not general stockists, and ensure that the product is picked up and made available. Our reach through various digital media so that our patients are informed we have products which can satisfy your unmet needs. This is how we have managed to balance the basket. But honestly, in a single statement, we have not lost focus on the prescription. And that is how we have balanced our basket. We do not have any frank OTC products. We have OTX products. Yes, going forward, there are some sections like dental where OTX, going frank OTX could expand our market, and we will take baby steps there. If you study the OTX segment of dental also, although there is a separate distribution channel to reach the FMCG, the steady channel of going through our stockists itself fulfills a large part of even the OTC side of dental. So we don't really have to jump strategies. There is a lot to be leveraged yet, and that's how we will go.
Ma'am, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Indigo is known as an organization to nurture people from within to take up leadership roles. Over the years, Indian pharma industry has witnessed very high attrition rates. How has the talent acquisition and retention for Indigo changed with the change in dynamics?
Coming to talent and harnessing talent, managing it, Indigo is a kind of company where we, typically you'll see people join and like to retire from. It has been another goodwill we have got from our founders. Although my grandfather might have started the company, but Mr. Kare, present chairman, and my father, he nurtured the company from when it was sick. He came in 1963 and got a sick company and turned it around. Some of the key cultural things, ethics that we work with. In this company, we believe person is an individual first. Every employee is an individual. There is a lot of respect for the person. We also believe in creating managers from within. So if you look at several of our vice president level people today, many might have started the journey within the organization at officer levels. And I think that is great. So you need a bit of both. You need to develop talent from within. We have several programs in human resources where we develop talent from within. We select gems, youngsters who have spark, give them mentors within the company. We select people at mid-management level, sort of give them, create programs like Climb. It is a cluster of learning, so they learn from each other, they grow within the organization. So we've had a good balance of creating management talent from within. And of course, as the company has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 5-6 years in particular, there has been a lot of value add of talent from the outside as well. It is this fine balance managing the people within. You also need people from within to give you a steady ship, and you need to value add from outside. I think it is our environment as an organization which is very attractive for youngsters today. They get to come to work here and show a very high level of ownership for the company. It is today a listed company, but still has very much the character of a family. And I think a lot of people like that kind of business environment for work. But like I said, off late, we have really taken talent from outside and harnessed them. And we see all of them actually helping the company grow in a very futuristic direction as we go forward.
So now what next? What is your vision for Indigo for the next 75 years?
The vision is very clear. Like I said, we started with wanting to provide quality medicines to Indians. Today, we want to provide quality medicines to the world. Outside is a great opportunity. Within India also is a tremendous opportunity. We are very strong in South and West. We have a lot of leveraging to do in the North and East. We are very strong with some segments in acute. We have a lot of building to do in the subchronic and the chronic side. Within acute, we have decided, we were not very successful in the past with our new launches of late. Here there is a clear strategy now to have the early mover advantage with launches and then strategically drive them within areas which are already a strength for the company. So rather than launch, I mean, although in chronic segments you will see a product like Aloja, which is the first time and only launch of an allogliptin, of a product which is a research product out of Indoco. That will continue to happen in the chronic, subchronic areas. But when it comes to acute, the new products will specifically be in areas which are a inherent strength. So you will definitely see a GPCP or a GP pediatrician or an ENT presence in the prescriptions. And there are several areas which have to be harnessed for us to build on. As I said, we get 48% prescription from the GP, and we are ranked very high with the GP on prescriptions. We are also ranked very high with the dentist, with the ophthalmologist. But pediatrician, we are ranked very high with the pediatrician. Because for every acute product, we have a pediatric product which is written by the pediatrician. And there are several areas for the company to grow as we go forward. Our vision for the company, as we started looking at international markets, which today constitute anywhere between 40 to 50% of our top line, depending on how the India business does. We have built an excellent R&D capability for developing difficult to do products. So we were a late entrant in US. So we went into the niche products of sterile injectables, sterile ophthalmics, difficult to do solid orals. And we have built an entire basket of ANDAs which will now steadily get approved. And if you look at our US revenues over the last 3 years, there is a multiplication effect which will continue for the next few years. So our operations capabilities, we have plants across geographies which can do several dosage forms. So the company today has some very inherent infrastructure capabilities, soft and hard. And I'm very confident that with this setup, the company is slated to sort of at least double, if not triple, just with this infrastructure in the next few years.
Thank you, ma'am. It was indeed a pleasure speaking with you. I also take this opportunity to thank our audience. In case you have any feedbacks or suggestions, please feel free to drop us a mail or get in touch with the client servicing team. We look forward to having you join us next time for another interesting discussion with an industry expert. Thank you again. Have a great day ahead.